5 o'clock, I'll call the March 13th, 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting together, which shows we're missing one member, Bert. We have approval of the February 13th meeting minutes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Are there any changes to the agenda? We'll leave it stand as written. We'll enter the meeting materials into the record. The zoning resolution. Exhibit B, the presentation. And the packet that we each received. We'll move right into the regular agenda. Sydney?
Yes, sir. All right, the property owner, Jeffrey Barnes, is requesting a variance from county requirements pertaining to the encroachment of a primary dwelling within the required setback. The variance is being requested in accordance with Chapter 14, Section 1410 of the zoning resolution. It's for 1092 Hickory Harbor Drive in Gallatin. All right. The property is zoned rural residential. It is in a subdivision that was platted in 1964. The property is about 1 acre in size. And they are requesting a variance from both side yard setbacks from 20 feet to 10 feet. Let's see. And all of these were noticed in the Gallatin News and the Hendersonville Standard on February the 27th. Okay, so here we have the setbacks for each zone found in the zoning resolution. And in the rural residential, you can see that the side yard setbacks are prescribed at 20 feet. That's what they're seeking a variance from. This is the plat from 1964. Their lot, this was also in your packet, I know it's a little hard to see, is this lot number 15.
Push that side button.
Thank you very much.
There's like a switch on the side there.
Yes, technology is my friend.
We use our imagination.
Okay, so you see a small sliver on the very far right hand side on the southern property. That is lot 16 that was initially created as an access easement for the property owners to access the lake. However, in 2021, the Planning Commission amended the subdivision plat to allow that to become a buildable lot. So that lot has a house on it currently. The lot we're looking at is the second one that's much larger than most of the lots in the subdivision, which is lot number 15. There it is, Des. That's what we're looking at. All right. That's it. All right. And there are some old regulations in the zoning resolution that do say if it's a subdivision that was created before July of 1973, then if the lot is under 40,000 square feet, then those side setbacks are assumed to be 10 feet. So the vast majority of these neighbors do have a 10-foot setback. However, this one is over that by a couple thousand square feet, and so they currently have that 20-foot side setback. Just want to mention that. And here you can see this is the lot in question here. This was the lot that was created in
closer to your microphone? It's really hard to hear you.
Sure. There we are. All right, this is the lot in question here. And, all right, here we have the survey plot plan. This is the proposed footprint of the home. And this is, again, this is in your packet. This is a retaining wall that's existing. Their soils, and then they have a drain up here. And the house is set back, I believe, about 97 feet from the road. Okay. And here is the actual distances from those property lines. This one's at 10.01. This one's at 10 and a half feet. So really the request will be from 10 feet from each property line. This is the architectural rendering of the proposed home from the ground level. All right, this is where the public notice was published in the paper. And the zoning compliance application that says, hey, the front setback is 40 feet, the sides are 20, and the rear is 20. Or, sorry, 30. All right. So it's the variance application. And here are some pictures for perspective of the lot. You can see the house that was constructed on that lot that was approved in 2021, and this was the house that was at 1094 Harbor Drive, I believe, and this is the lot right here that we're looking at. All right. And this is the state grounds for whether or not the powers of the Board of Zoning Appeals and whether or not a variance can be granted. And it says that where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the regulation, or exceptional topographic condition, other extraordinary and exceptional situation, that the strict application of the regulations would create a hardship or difficulties of the property owner, and that the variance of such a strict application can relieve the difficulties of the hardship, provided that they are without substantial detriment to the public good. All right. And here are those regulations broken down. The first one is that the physical surrounding shape, topo of the property result in a particular hardship on the owner. And the staff finding is that the particular conditions of the lot with the limited building area due to the topography make conformity with the zoning resolution difficult. And the second one, the conditions upon the petition for a variance is based would not be applicable to other properties within the rural residential zoning district as a whole. And again, the staff finds that these conditions are not typical of the rural residential zoning district and are unique to this lot. The third point is the variance will not authorize activities in the zone other than permitted by the resolution. So staff finding is that no unpermitted uses are being proposed. Number 4, financial returns only shall not be considered as a basis for granting a variance. And financial returns are not the primary issue at hand with this request. Number 5, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property after the date of this resolution. The difficulty was not created by this property owner. And number 6, the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. And staff finds that the requested variance appears to be the minimum that will allow the property to be utilized in the manner proposed. Number 7, the granting of of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property improvements in the area. No evidence has been provided indicating the granting of the variance will be detrimental to the public, and it does seem to be compatible with what is around it. And number 8, the proposed variance will not impair the adequate supply of light or air to the adjacent properties. And again, no evidence has been provided, excuse me, that will impair the light or the air or increase congestion or the risk of fire or diminish property values. All right. Other additional requirements that we have for variances, the plot plan meeting requirements has been provided by the applicant, and the variance is not a use variance. So those conditions have been met. And here are the example motions. Motion number 1, to approve to find that the county variance standards are met and approve a request for a variance to the side yard setbacks in accordance with the submitted plot plan, with the condition that A, all zoning, building, and land disturbance permits are obtained from the county departments. 2, to deny the variance request for this property, or 3, to defer 1 month for additional information.
Thank you, Cindy. This is a public hearing. First one to sign up, Kathy Cook. If you would come forward, state your name and address for the record, and tell us what you have to say.
Here?
Yes, ma'am. Right there.
So I'm Kathy Cook. I'm the owner of the house that is adjacent on the right as you look at the lake, 1090 Hickory Harbor Drive. I am here to ask that you deny the variance request due to the harm that would cause my property to build a house so close to my house. My house is also on a very narrow lot. We did build a house within the approved setbacks. We did not ask for a variance. We were able to do it on the same width of a lot as I believe the lot that's in question. We don't believe, my husband and I don't believe that the variance should be granted. We think that the harm to us is substantial. We think that the view to the lake will be blocked partially. We also believe that setbacks are in place for a reason. 20 feet is not that much anyway, but 20 feet is there for a reason, and we just don't believe that 10 feet is appropriate for houses that are as close to each other. Here, we believe that 20 feet is appropriate. That's why the 20 feet was enacted for bigger lots that this fits within.
Thank you.
Is that enough? Okay.
That's enough. Thank you. Stuart Fisher,
Yes, sir.
state your name and address.
Stuart Fisher, I'm at 1087 Hickory Harbor. I'm across the street. I know I ain't got much of a dog in this race, but this is new to me, and I'm just here to see how, because I've got potentially the property that I'm connected to is potential development property, and I just wanted to see how this would affect future rules and regulations that have been set that may affect me in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Davis.
Okay. Good evening to you all. I'm Mark Davis, 1094 Hickory Harbor Drive. I'm that house there. So I bought this house about 3 years ago from the builder. Just finishing up. I moved out from the west. Loved it out here, very quiet, beautiful, all the rest of it. Mr. Barnes has got every right to build. It's his property. But I think there's rules and regulations for a reason, okay? That's 10 foot's definitely going to impede on my property. And I saw there was a section 8 a little earlier about public concern or health or whatever it is. Is there an 8th? Let me see. 8, okay? Something about public safety. So the house where I'm at now, that house got burnt down, okay? A few months ago, the house across the street, the garage of my neighbor here got burnt down. We found out there's no water for the fire brigade, okay? It took him about 3 hours to put out his property. There's no way that moving this thing 10 feet closer to my premises and to Ms. Cook's is going to make the public safety any better from a fire point of view alone. Okay? Never mind everything else that's there. All right? I think when someone buys the property, has the architect go in, the builders, they will know the deal. They will know the requirements. So obviously this is probably done, thinking they can get it through, and it's up to all of you to decide. But I think there's reasons why there's zoning. Otherwise it's a free-for-all for everyone. So that's my stand on it, and I hope that you will at least put it forward for a month, or today decline it. Thank you.
Thank you. That was all that we had signed up. Is there anyone else to speak to this request? Sign it, please.
Andy Leith, 114B. I'm representing the owners of the project. They reside out of state currently. Listening to the sentiments of the neighbors speak, I can certainly understand maybe where they're coming from. But as Sydney pointed out, this lot is one of the larger lots in the subdivision, platted back in 1964 with no setbacks on the plat. So I guess, I don't know what the regulations were in 1964, but since the setbacks were not platted, we are under current zoning. So I don't know when these lots were created if the intent was to have 20-foot setbacks. If that was the intent, most of these lots in the subdivision were 72 to 75 foot wide. So I doubt the original intent was to build 30-foot wide houses by the time you take 40 foot off those setbacks. If Sydney, so I know you can't see the numbers up there, but I have reviewed that plat. Most of those lots were platted at 72 to 75 foot wide. So 20-foot setbacks were not the original intent. Or if they were, it was not a good use of property. The property next door to us to the east, it does have 10-foot setbacks, so we're not asking for anything that they don't already have just next door to us. The property to the west, I do not know how far her house is off her property line. We didn't survey that. We didn't have a reason to. We have scooted the house as far back as it can go into this lot without getting into the topography and then further down into the septic. So they have pushed it as far as they can get it. I feel like it's a modest house. If you look at the exhibit, there's only 15 square foot that's over the setback line on each side. So it's not, we're not putting the whole entire house up against, within 10 foot. It's the corner of the garage and the front corner of the entryway. And so that amounts to about 15 square foot on each side. So I feel like that, the hardship created from the platting of the lot back in 1964 without setbacks platted, then we come into new regulations, new zoning that wasn't really intended for this piece of property. The topography, you can see how close those topo lines are at the very rear of the house. We couldn't shift it any far back without getting into some serious terrain issues. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I feel like this variance is the least. Obviously the least that was to ask for 9 foot on or 10 foot on each side, not overstepping the request for that. So I'll answer any questions if you have them, or sit down and listen.
Anyone have a request of Mr. Lee? Thanks, Ed. anyone else care to speak to this request? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing and open the floor for debate. I will say while you're thinking about it, this is not uncommon in that area. In fact, that whole area in the 60s was a campsite. Everything down there. Lori Lee joined it. They were little 30,000 foot lots. You know, if you think about it, we've granted variances, not granted the smaller lots, coming all the way around the lake, all the way around from Cage's Bend to here. We've granted variances on it, of the 10 feet. Now, many cases, and usually it was because they did not consider a 20-foot setback in 1964. I didn't start it much later. In fact, it stayed at 10. I'm thinking up until the zoning resolution was rehashed a few years later. John?
I apologize.
What was your question, Mr. Chairman?
What was your?
I apologize. What was your question? I was speaking to the attorney.
Never mind, you're not here.
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, I think what you may have been driving at was that,
There's been a big issue with non-conforming lots around the lake over the years. And for me, and our comprehensive plan calls that out as a big problem because the majority of those lakefront lots, as you mentioned, are old campsites and that kind of thing. They don't meet current requirements for zoning. So the 40,000 square foot lot size has been the standard across the county since zoning was in back in 1973. But most of these lots were created before zoning existed in Sumner County. And so there's a conundrum that's been in place for a long time. Is how do you get a house that's big enough to live in into those lots with the setbacks that we have? And the solution for many years was to take it to the Board of Zoning Appeals and BZA granted dozens, maybe hundreds over the years of variances around the lake for these lots. What we did in, I think, 2020, around that time frame, was we updated the zoning resolution to add a provision that basically says if you're on a lot that does not meet current requirements, so it's less than 40,000 square feet, you get a 10-foot side setback instead of 20. So you get a less restrictive setback because it's a non-conforming lot. And so we brought that from Williamson County. They had the same provisions in their zoning code. And so, Sid, if you can pull up that plat. And so on that plat, quite a few of those lots, and I don't know off the top of my head, the ones on the northern side, most of those are probably conforming lots. But on the south side, most of those lots down on the south side of the road are less than 40,000 square feet. And so all those lots have a 10-foot side setback and a 20-foot rear setback instead of 30. So it's a reduced setback. On the south side of the road, probably one of the only ones that doesn't have that 10-foot setback is the lot in question this evening. And that's because it happens to be over 40,000 square feet. But the lot to the right and the lot to the left both have 10-foot side setbacks. As do all the other lots, or most of the other lots anyway, up and down the road, because they're less than 40,000 square feet. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that answers the question. And I just wanted to bring that up as what the history of that area. So what we're looking at is one lot out of a subdivision on the lake side that is wide enough, it goes over the 40,000 square feet. All the rest of them have 10-foot setbacks. And I will note that a few of them, if my memory serves me correct, people bought more than one to put a house on 2 lots or 3 lots or whatever, especially coming back to the west. What's the will of the board?
motion, per sample motion A. I think, the design and the layout of the lot makes a lot of sense, the lot, topography, everything else. So sample motion 1, I guess it is, with subcategory A. I'm going to put it up there. Sample motion 1 with A subcategory. That's a motion.
We have a motion to accept example motion number 1 and 1A. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-1. Any other business?
We just have the administrative renewals that have passed the codes and planning inspections for the month of March. And those 3 are listed there with the pick-in, the Southern Machine, and Caleb's Jump Removal. And that is all of the administrative renewals for your acknowledgement.
Any other business? I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. We are adjourned.